What's up everyone, Scott here from Chernobyl Studios, and today we are going to check out the Mark II of the Heavy Pedal just released from Audiority. Let's check it out. So now you have a pretty good idea of the potential of the heavy pedal in an actual mix. Let's go over really what's changed. And before I get any further, if you have the original version of the heavy pedal, you will get the Mark II as a free upgrade, so don't worry about that. So basically a lot of the major changes are under the hood. You know, it runs better functionality, better circuitry design, but there are a couple things here worth noting that you will appreciate. For example, if you're on a pretty large monitor resolution, you don't have to go through the menu anymore to change the interface size. You can actually just come down here, drag it out. It's much faster. And you can double click the corner, go back to the default size. There are a lot more mods now. We're going to go over a couple of these. Filth The FX56, the Japan one, SMM1, and Swede are amazing mods. They all have different character and can be used in different ways, but it's really it's a great addition to the Heavy Pedal Mark II. Other than that, the gate has been largely improved, so it works better, it's more responsive, and because the gate is absolutely necessary when using a pedal like this, it's good that they got that under wraps, and so it works better. All right, so I've got the Heavy Pedal loaded up here with the Audiority Randy, the Solidus Randy 250, which is basically the same chain that I used in the mix. We'll go over the mix in just a second, but I want to show you guys how you can utilize the pedal. So there's basically two ways. You can do it. You can do it through the clean channel, for example. And you get a result similar to this. Well, you'll notice you're really not getting the chainsaw effect, and that's really because if you want to get that gnarly chainsaw effect, you need to run the pedal with basically the lead channel portion of your amp. So if we take this off of the clean channel, go to channel 2 here, we're now on the distorted channel. You can already start to hear some of that chainsaw come in. But there's a couple things we need to do. First, let's go ahead and, gain is already cranked. Let's just mess with the tone knobs real quick. So you might be thinking, that doesn't sound very impressive, Scott. Yeah, we need to mess with the tone knobs here on the Heavy Pedal, because we want basically the pedal and the amp to work together, not really kind of like cancel each other out. So right now we have something like this, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to do basically the settings that I like to use, and you're going to hear a big difference. So it has just a little bit of that top end chainsaw character, but now this pedal is more or less acting like a little bit of a boost or a tube screener into the amp itself. So it's not overly saturated, it's not totally chainsaw, but this is a great way that I like to use the pedal if I'm using the pedal and the amp only and not doing any kind of blending or anything else like that. So you can get a pretty good tone that has good note definition. So the Heavy Pedal can be used in that respect. However, I know you're not here for that. You want to hear some chainsaw. Well, it's a good thing because there are a bunch of mods that we can go over, a bunch of new mods included in the Mark II. So let's just go down the list. Now these are all pretty cool, but there's really a couple that I want to show you, starting with my favorite, which is the MiJ Japan. So the settings that I set didn't change, but you're going to hear a big difference. Right? We're getting much more grindy and chainsawy now. Now, if we wanted to add more distortion, we just add more distortion. So we use the distortion knob really as our control, more or less how shitty of a sound that we want to get, right? But I like this one because it's still pretty clear. The attack is pretty tight, a little bit glassy. But let's look at, for example, the Swede, which has the classic dials completely pegged. We will turn the distortion down, and we'll see what this sounds like. So I know that's what you guys were waiting to hear. So yes, you can create that classic Swedish sound with no issue whatsoever, and its high fidelity sounds great. Okay, so that was the Swede one. We have another one here, the SMM1. Now, great thing about these mods are that you can go for different sounds. You know, like the HM2 is the HM2, and it sounds like the HM2. But with these particular mods, you can get a bit, you can spend some more time to get a tone that's more specific to you. For example, if you just want the chainsaw, it's here. But if you want to have a little bit of chainsaw, maybe a bit more bottom end, there's that, right? Same thing with the Japan. It's sort of like a blend of, not really a blend, but it kind of has characteristics of both of these. So there's low end plus the top end grind, right? And finally, we have one which is just epic, I can't even think of the word, called Filth. Let me just turn the distortion down on this one and we'll start slow. So Filth sounds like this. It's like Sweet on steroids. That is just nonsense. Filthy. So aptly named mod name right there for sure. So as you can see, it's pretty simple to use and to dial in. The plugin's great. Like I said, it's high fidelity, sounds great, and you're really not going to get much better of a sound than this. This is probably the best HM2 pedal on the market. I'm a big fan of it, and I had a lot of fun using it for the mix, which, why don't we just go ahead and check out the mix right now. All right, so here we are in the mix. I just want to talk about how I used the pedal and how I utilized it to create this guitar tone. I did quad track this because I have two different amps that I'm using and two different chains essentially. So if we come down here to our two different guitar buses, we have the one chain here where there's no HM2, which is this Audiority Solidus VS8100 with the green Screamer, the Green Reaper in front of it. Classic combination, sounds great. We get basically a result like this. Sounds great. Nice and aggressive, pretty well balanced tone, maybe a bit dark, but you're going to understand why. Because we're going to have this huge layer of chainsaw on top of it, okay? Now if we have a look at the heavy pedal, which is the same exact chain that I just showed you guys just a second ago. It's the HM2 into the Solidus Randy 250. These are the settings that I've used, and I'm using the mkII Japan mod. And we get a sound like this. So absolutely heavy, freaking ridiculous, right? So let's dive into how I created that. So the first thing obviously is I brought in Solidus, created the tone, set my tone settings, etc, etc, etc. For EQ, however, I did want to EQ each of these individually a little bit because I knew that we were going to have some problem, or that I was going to have some problems. So I'm taking care of some particularly harsh frequencies that are happening just with the Solidus that were not being masked with when the two tones were put together. And it sounds like this. So it's almost like a high-end crunch, presency type crunch that I'm damping down on. And I did a similar thing with the heavy pedal here. Now this one, I'm a bit more extreme when we look at this, and that's basically because I did an EQ cut plus having a dynamic range for the EQ to keep working, because this is a pretty beefy, out of control guitar tone. We really need to do a bit more to make sure it stays under control. And even with all this work, it's still a bit fuzzy sometimes. All right, so just tons of low end being kicked out here. So that's the EQ I did for there. And when we put them both in here with all the processing in place, we get a tone that sounds like this. So both of the different tones are kind of doing different things, where the Solidus, the VS8100 is sort of keeping the lows and the low mids sort of tight and intact. And obviously the Randy with the HM or the heavy pedal are just, it's all chainsaw all the way. All right, so let's look at the processing I did here on the actual guitar bus. So I've done a little bit more extra EQ. I've done my filters, obviously, and I've taken care of a couple of extra frequencies. Plus, I decided to really tame the highs a little bit. They were just a little bit too harsh and poking through too much. So just a simple little EQ like this helps even it out. All right, so that EQ does a lot of the work already. After that, we have a multiband, which you shouldn't be surprised. And I'm doing basically 2 anti-sneap tricks in different frequencies to help keep the palm mids under control, and again to keep the high mids, basically the chainsaw frequency, from poking out a little bit too much. So it sounds like this. And I'm not doing a lot, I'm just barely tickling it. It's just that last little percentage of control without neutering the guitar tone. Now, the real trick of making sure that this does not hurt your ears is going to be Soothe, and you shouldn't be surprised. Soothe is an amazing plugin. So I'm just using a preset here called Electric Guitar Harsh, and I'm just dialing back the mix knob until the crackly white noise aspects of the tone go away. So I'm not doing a whole lot, just enough, because we still want to have an aggressive guitar tone, right? It still needs to kick you in the nuts. So we don't want to neuter it too much where it becomes too flat, like it's under a pillow. So we need it to sound good, right? And then obviously I have the basically Joel Wanasek's version of L1 plus the Chug Slayer enabled, which is again like another anti-sneap type trick. All right, and that's the whole tone. And in context with the mix. Okay, that's all there is to it. Alright, so that's going to do it for this video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you have any questions or comments, please leave a comment down below. I'd be happy to read or help and answer. Please also like and subscribe. That helps me a lot. And I also would like to mention that I have courses on Pro Mix Academy, links down below for guitar tone mastery and mixing extreme metal. If you would like to know more about how I can create these guitar tones, you know, guitar tone mastery is the way to go. And you can use the newfound knowledge to use the heavy pedal, for example, and create new awesome guitar tones. Also, please don't forget that I am streaming pretty much every Saturday, doing some live mixing, and would be looking to do anything else that you guys might be interested in checking out, be it recording guitars, mixing other songs, recording my own songs, showing you guys client songs. Would just be happy to hang out for 1 or 2 hours and do something live. So every Saturday that happens, it's 9 p.m. Central European Time or 3:30 p.m. Eastern America Time. Yeah, something like that. Yeah. So that happens every Saturday. Would love to see you show up and say hi and interact with you. I think it would be a lot of fun. All right, I'm out of here. I'll see you in the next video. Have a good one.